It started with a busted light fixture. I was helping out around the building. Just a favor from my landlord, not a job or anything official. She lived 2 doors down from me. Apartment 3C. I'd seen her maybe twice in the hallway, once carrying groceries and once in heels that didn't match her messy hair. Both times, she didn't look at me long enough to register recognition. But when I knocked, she opened the door like she'd been waiting for someone. Not me, just someone. Landlord said you needed help with the ceiling light, I said, holding up the little toolbox like proof. My voice cracked slightly. I hated that. Her eyes were lined but tired, as if makeup couldn't cover a life too full of days. She looked about 38, maybe 40. The kind of beauty you don't notice until she walks away and you're still looking. Oh, right. Come in, she said, and turned without waiting for an answer. Her voice wasn't cold, it was distracted, like she had bigger problems than broken light bulbs and kids with toolkits. The apartment was quiet. Books stacked sideways. A mug with lipstick stains still on the rim. Jazz playing too softly on the radio. I climbed up on the chair she pointed to. She didn't offer small talk. You don't work for him, do you? She asked suddenly. The landlord. No, just bored. That made her smile. A little. Almost. Girls your age don't get bored. Too busy swiping left or right. I don't date girls my age, I said without thinking. She raised an eyebrow, like she wasn't sure if she should be amused or concerned. I turned back to the light. The silence came back. Heavy. Like rain against glass. I don't mean to sound rude, she said after a pause. You don't sound rude, I interrupted. She looked at me then. Full on. First time. Eyes like something sharp underwater. I just think, she said slowly, young girls these days probably don't know how to keep a man. Something about the way she said it. Like she wasn't talking about them. Like she was talking about herself. Or someone she used to be. I stepped down from the chair. Flicked the switch. Light flooded the room. She squinted. Not at the bulb, at me. I think keeping someone isn't the same thing as loving them, I said. My fingers brushed hers when I handed the screwdriver back. Her hand flinched. Not away, just enough to notice. That's love, I added. Quietly. She blinked. Once. Then she looked down. Like my words had touched something she didn't want touched. I thought that was the end of it. Me being too honest, too fast. But then, as I stepped toward the door, she spoke again. Do you drink coffee? Her voice was different now. Lower. Less sure of itself. I turned halfway, careful not to smile. Only if it's bad. She exhaled through a laugh, almost surprised by it. Then disappeared into the kitchen. And just like that, I knew I wasn't getting out of there in under 15 minutes. The coffee was burnt. Of course it was. She slid the chipped mug across the counter like it wasn't a peace offering. But it was. I took it without a word. Let the silence hang between us again. Not awkward anymore. Just loaded. The kitchen light flickered once. Then steadied. She didn't notice. I did. I'm not great at hosting, she said, arms crossed like armor. I usually just avoid it altogether. You're doing fine. I sipped the coffee and winced. She caught it. I didn't say the coffee was good, she muttered. I smiled. She didn't. She leaned against the fridge, arms still folded, one foot hooked behind the other. The way people stand when they don't plan on staying in a conversation too long. But she didn't leave. There was a photo on the fridge. Polaroid, faded at the corners. Her maybe 5 years ago. Hair longer. A man beside her, older, smiling like he owned the world. Her smile was smaller. Careful. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. I should have thrown that out, she said, catching my glance. Her voice softened. But sometimes I forget it's still there. Or maybe I want to forget. She didn't look at me. I didn't look away. He was your husband? Was. She reached up and peeled the photo off the fridge. Looked at it like it had insulted her. Sorry, I said, though I wasn't sure for what. Don't be. She tossed the photo face down on the counter, next to my mug. I was the one who left. Something about the way she said that felt heavier than the admission itself. Like she still wasn't sure if it had been the right decision. Or maybe she was sure, and that was the problem. I never used to drink coffee, she added, changing the subject. He got me hooked. Now I can't get through a day without it, even if it tastes like mud. She looked up, suddenly aware of how long we'd been standing there. I caught her gaze. This time she didn't look away. You remind me of someone, she said. Someone good, I asked. I didn't say that, but the corner of her mouth twitched. Not a smile, exactly, but something trying to be. I don't know what made me say it. Maybe it was the way the light caught her collarbone. Maybe it was the way the jazz on the radio sounded like a heartbeat behind everything. Maybe it was how close we were, even though we hadn't moved. You make me nervous, I said. Her eyes flicked to mine. Sharp, soft, caught. And then she stepped forward. Just half a step. Enough that I could smell her again. Cold rain and cinnamon. Do I? She asked, barely above a whisper. I nodded almost against my will. Yeah, you do. She reached out, slowly, and touched my arm. Just a brush. But it felt like someone had knocked the wind out of me. Then maybe, she said, her voice steady now, you should stay a little longer, until the nerves go away. I didn't answer, not out loud. I should have left when the coffee went cold. Instead, I sat on her couch, knees close together like a kid waiting for a lecture, while she stood by the window with the mug still in her hands. Even though she hadn't taken a sip in 15 minutes, the room felt warm, but not from the heat. There was something in the air now, tight, unspoken, too still. I used to hate this apartment, she said suddenly. I looked up. She wasn't looking at me. After I left him, I moved here like it was a statement. I don't need more than this. I don't need anyone. She turned slightly, eyes tracing the space around us like it was a cage. You don't believe that anymore? She didn't answer right away. Her fingers curled around the mug, white-knuckled. I don't know what I believe anymore. Then softer. It gets quieter than you think. Being alone. She looked at me again. And I swear, she didn't blink for a full second. I forced myself to stand. Tried to stretch the moment out like that might make leaving easier. I should. Do you always run when someone gets honest with you? That stopped me. I'm not running. You're halfway to the door. I looked at the space between us. 3 feet. Maybe less. You're not making this easy, I said, voice low. She smiled, the wrong kind of smile. The one people used to cover something breaking underneath. You're not the one who has to wake up with the consequences. Silence. Then the sound of a phone buzzing from somewhere in the room. Sharp. Real. She turned away to check it. I looked down at my hands. They were clenched. It's just my sister, she said, setting the phone down without replying. She thinks I'm fragile now. Like leaving a man means I forgot how to carry things. I tried to think of something to say. Something smart, comforting, neutral. Instead, I asked, did he hurt you? She stared at me like I'd read something I wasn't supposed to. No, she said after a beat. Not in the way people think. And then she sat down next to me, not across, not at the other end. Next to me, her knee brushed mine. She didn't pull back. I didn't breathe. She reached out, gently tugged the hem of my sleeve like she wasn't sure if she had the right. You're, what, 22? 24. She nodded. That's worse. I laughed, but it came out wrong, shaky, unsure. Age doesn't mean anything. It does when people start talking. I turned toward her. Let them. That made her pause. Long enough for me to notice the scar near her temple. Faint but there. I wanted to ask, but didn't. Instead I said, "You're shaking." She looked down. Her hand had found mine somewhere in the moment, barely touching. "I don't know what I'm doing," she whispered. "I do," I said, just as quietly. And for one breathless second, it felt like we were about to fall into something neither of us could come back from. Then a knock. At the door. The knock felt like a slap. We didn't move. She blinked first. Pulled her hand away like she hadn't realized it was there. "I wasn't expecting anyone," she said, more to herself than to me. Another knock. Firmer this time. She stood. I followed, but slower. At the door, she paused. Didn't touch the handle. Just breathed. Then the voice. "Clara? You home?" A man. Older. Confident. Familiar. She didn't open the door. "I'm busy right now," she called. But her voice cracked halfway through. My stomach twisted. The man laughed, soft, tired. "It's not like that. I forgot my charger. You said I could swing by. I didn't need context. I already knew." She looked at me then. Brief. Guilty. Something raw passed over her face before she turned back to the door. "I'll leave it in the hallway," she said. No reply. She opened the door just enough to slip a small black charger onto the doormat. Closed it again like she was afraid something else might sneak through. I stood in the middle of her living room, every inch of me stiff with something I couldn't name. "That was him." I didn't ask. She nodded. "Still comes around?" "Sometimes." Her voice was flat. "Mostly for things he forgot. Sometimes to make sure I haven't changed the locks." I ran a hand through my hair. "And you let him in?" "Don't start." "I'm not starting anything. I'm just standing here and wondering if this—" I gestured to the space between us, still warm, still charged. "Was a mistake." She stepped forward. "Just once." "You think I planned this?" "No. I think you don't know what you want." That stung. I saw it hit. But she didn't deny it. "You think I don't feel this?" she snapped. "You think I let just anyone sit on my couch and look at me like that?" I looked at her. Really looked. She was flushed, breathing fast. Not angry, cornered. Like a truth had gotten too close. "What do you want from me, Clara?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her hands clenched and unclenched. Something in her broke. I could see it in the way her shoulders dropped. "I want to feel like I didn't ruin everything," she said, barely audible. "I want to feel wanted. And not just by someone who knows all my worst parts." I stepped closer. The room was so quiet I could hear her swallow. "You are wanted," I said. She looked up, eyes glassy. "And what happens when this stops being exciting for you? When I'm just some woman who couldn't hold her life together?" I didn't answer right away. Couldn't. Because beneath her fear was a truth she hadn't said out loud. She didn't trust anyone to stay. I moved one step closer. She didn't move, just looked at me, like if I said the wrong thing she'd fall apart, or fall into me. Then her voice, low. "Are you going to kiss me? Are you going to kiss me?" She said it like a dare, like she didn't want me to, like she did. And I was going to... God. When I saw something over her shoulder, a photograph, same fridge, different frame, one I hadn't noticed before. 3 people. Clara a little younger. The man from the other photo, the one who just knocked. And me. I froze. That can't be right. Clara followed my gaze. Slowly. Then her face changed. "You recognize him now," she said quietly. Not a question. I nodded, throat tight. "Professor Heller. Literature. Sophomore year." She looked away. "Yeah, that's him." "But Why was I in that photo? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked over to the fridge, pulled the photo off, and held it in her hand like it burned. You gave me your paper on Cyrano de Bergerac. He found it in his office. Read it out loud in the kitchen like it was some kind of joke. My stomach twisted. He thought it was dramatic, she continued. Said you were probably just another boy in love with the sound of your own voice. Her fingers curled around the photo. But I read it after he left, and I cried. I stared at her. Why are you telling me this? Because I remembered your name 2 years later when I saw it on the tenant list. And I didn't know if I should be curious or terrified. She looked up at me then, eyes full of something I couldn't place. You didn't just show up in my life, okay? You were already a dot on my map. I stepped back. Not far, but enough that the space felt colder. All this time, you knew who I was? I didn't plan it. I swear to you. But you let me think I was just some guy with a wrench and a busted light. You were. And then you weren't. Couldn't breathe. Not properly. Not with the way the air in the room had shifted. I felt like I had to stay away, she said. That maybe it was inappropriate or pathetic. But then you looked at me like I saw you. She nodded. I wanted to tell you, but I thought if I named it, it would fall apart. Outside, a siren wailed far off, the kind of sound that usually means something's ending or beginning. I don't care about him, I said. Your ex, what he thought, what he read. You don't have to fix this, she whispered. I just needed you to know I didn't come into this clean. I looked at her, hard. Neither did I. She blinked. What do you mean? I hesitated. Then, I remember that paper. I only wrote it because of something you said once. At his end-of-semester dinner. Her face froze. You don't remember me? I said, smiling softly. But I remember everything. She sat down like her legs had finally given out. Not dramatic, just quiet. Resigned. So, it wasn't just coincidence, she said. We already had a story. Yeah, I replied. Only we didn't know we were in it yet. She exhaled through her nose, rubbed her temples. Her fingers trembled slightly. You were wearing red that night, I said. Your hair was pinned up and falling out at the same time. I remember thinking you looked like someone who didn't want to be there. Clara looked at me slowly, then let out a small, sharp laugh. That sounds about right. I remember your toast, I went on. You raised your glass and said, to the ones who love too quietly. She blinked fast, like she was trying not to let something slip. I don't even remember saying that. I do, I said, because that was me. That's how I loved. The silence that followed was heavy, but not uncomfortable, just honest. Clara leaned back, looked at the ceiling, then turned toward me. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. I don't know how to let someone want me without trying to sabotage it. You think I don't feel the same? I said. You think I haven't been standing in this room trying to figure out if this is going to break me? She tilted her head. So why stay? Because I'd rather fall with you than wonder what it would have felt like to touch you and mean it. Her breath caught. Not loud, not dramatic. Just real. Like she was holding back a decade of wanting to be seen and didn't know how to let it go. I'm older, she said. Not just in age. In weight. In history. I don't want light, I said. I want you. Clara looked down at her hands. Palms up now like she was finally willing to stop hiding them. She whispered, You're not afraid? I walked over, sat beside her again. This time I didn't hover. I didn't pull away. I'm terrified, I said. But it doesn't change what I feel. She nodded. Slowly. A single tear slid down, and she didn't bother to wipe it away. Then she reached for my hand, Not like she needed help. Like she was choosing something. Finally. "So what do we do now?" she asked. "We stop pretending," I said, "and we start telling the truth. One moment at a time." Clara closed her eyes, took a breath, let it out. Then she said, without looking at me, "Stay the night, but not for sex. Just stay. I need to know what it feels like to fall asleep next to someone who doesn't plan on disappearing." I nodded. "I'm not going anywhere." She fell asleep before I did. Face turned slightly toward the window, hand resting close to mine. Not touching, just there. Like she wasn't sure what the morning would bring. But for now, it was okay to let herself rest. The streetlight outside cast a soft amber wash across her cheek. She looked nothing like the woman who opened the door to a broken light 2 weeks ago. And maybe that was the thing. She hadn't changed. I used to think love had to be loud. Some grand declaration, a movie ending, a kiss in the rain. But this was 2 mugs of bad coffee, a hand brushing mine in a too quiet room, a silence that didn't ask to be filled. I didn't touch her that night, not because I didn't want to, because it would have ruined something. The next morning she made toast, burnt it. We laughed about it like old friends do, like we'd already survived something. There were no promises, no dramatic scenes, just this slow, strange rhythm we fell into, checking in, walking side by side to the corner store, texting too late about nothing. Some days she pulled away, and I let her, not because I didn't care, but because I was learning how not to reach for someone who needed space. And on the days I struggled, she sat next to me and listened, not offering answers, just her presence. Like she was saying, "You don't have to fix everything to be wanted." Her ex never came back after that night. She didn't tell me if she finally blocked his number. I never asked. But the photo disappeared from the fridge, replaced by a magnet with a quote that made her roll her eyes every time I read it aloud. "Love doesn't rescue you. It meets you halfway." 6 months later, I found the paper I'd written back in college, the one that brought me into her orbit. I gave it to her, folded and yellowed at the edges. She read it on the balcony with a glass of wine, and when she was done, she didn't say a word. Just looked at me with that same expression she had the night she asked if I was going to kiss her. This time I did, and she didn't flinch.